What's up, guys? So I've been asked a few times in the past to do a tutorial on how I run the brakes and brake lines on my cars. Most recently Cool Models 49 asked me if I'd do this. And since I've been meaning to do it for so long, I figured I'd finally get around to it. So the first thing we'll be doing is wiring up the rear end. Then we'll be drilling the holes in the hubs where all the brake lines would go in, which would be right here where the calipers would be. So I'm going to get all those holes drilled, and I'll come back and we'll start running lines. Okay guys, so you guys may choose the option of not mounting your tires and wheels before you start putting your brake lines on. My personal preference is to have them in place, so I've gone ahead and mounted everything up, and the holes where these are drilled, where the calipers are, just like the front ones. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. You can see a tiny little hole right there where the caliper would be, where my lines are going to go in. That is just a 1/32 inch hole that I used for my dribble tool set. The next thing I'm going to do is this little piece of rectangle stock. It's a small piece. It's probably about 1/16 of an inch. I don't actually know the size, but on the side I'm going to drill 2 holes as close together as I can. And on the front I'm going to drill all the way through. And I'm going to make 2 T-fittings out of that to run my lines with from the front and the back. I'll show you in a little bit what I'm talking about there. But getting ready to drill those holes. This is the model line that I usually use. I've ordered it from a few different places. You usually get 2 feet of it for about $3. It's about a 1/32 inch line. Or the other day I was scrolling through Walmart. You can get 100 feet of the exact same wire, hobby and flower wire. I got this in the hardware section of Walmart. It's the exact same aluminum wire for about $1.99, I think it was, for 100 feet of it, instead of the 2 feet I've been paying $3 for. So good little tip there. Right beside that you'll probably find this. It's also a picture hanging wire. It's not really braided, it's more like a weave, but if you're careful with this, it's actual steel. If you're careful with it, it makes a good radiator hose for steel braided hoses. But if you have to watch bending it and be real careful, because it will kink. But if you're, again, careful, it doesn't kink very bad at all. I think I got that for like $3 a roll. There's probably enough there until me and Models Till Death do us part, I would imagine, because there's a lot on a roll. I forgot how much it was, but it was like $3 a roll. So a couple good tips there. Okay guys, so here's what I was talking about, the T-fittings. I've got both of them made. I slid it over the line, and I've already glued them in place. All I've done was dropped a small drop of CA on it, or glue. For those of you who don't know what I mean by CA, I mean compound adhesives, such as that. I don't use the model glues. They're fine if you don't mind waiting 6 hours for something to dry. You can also see a small hole there. And on the other one's the same way. Small hole. Now these come in steel color, silver, brass. I've seen them in different colors, made out of different materials. Excuse me, I'm going to be painting mine brass. And I'll be cutting it right there in the middle. It'll give me one line, and then cut it right to the side to give me the second line. This will be to separate the front and rear brakes. Okay, so you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a little bit. Okay, so there's one side installed. All I've done is bent the brake line to fit in the hole. It's glued straight to the axle. It goes through my little T-fitting, the holes on top of the T-fitting. These are usually located kind of off to the side. Sometimes they'll be located directly in the center of the axle, but most times they'll be off slightly to one side or the other. There'll be a rubber hose that comes down to meet that from the car, so it allows for suspension movement. Now all I'm going to do is bend this wire to the sides of the axle, or the contour of the axle, excuse me, and go up into its hole and glue it in place as well. Okay, so there's the rear end all finished up. All I've done really is make that little T-fitting. The rest of it was really simple to do. Just bend the lines, glue them in place where the calipers would be, or on drum brakes where the slave cylinders would be. Bend everything tight to the axle as you can. Glue it in place, and you're good to go. On to the front axles. Okay, so you can see here what I've done in the front. The front T-fitting is mounted right there. The hole is to the back, so we'll go back this way towards the master cylinder when I put it in. That line is just hanging out the side right now, ready to be run. The other is running around across over the car and out the front. Now I'm going to run these back to the rear side of the A-arms on both. Most cars are going to have the brake lines to the rear. Some of the times it will be to the front, but usually they're around the rear of the car. I plan on doing the rear of this one unless it looks like it's going to be trouble or something. Since it's just a mild log, go ahead and run to the front if it's going to be really difficult. But I think that's all I'm going to have to do. From there, I'll have to make a couple of fittings to put on it. There'll be rubber lines going out to the brake drums and calipers. So that's where we stand for now. Go ahead and run these lines and we'll get started on the rest. Okay guys, you can't really see this. Second piece. You can see the fitting there, the little brass piece. Put this long rubber line in it that'll be going out to my hub. The lines are bent in place. Ran, you can barely see them. Over to that fitting, and now I just have to put my hubs on and run these out to the holes I drilled into the hubs, or either the sleeve cylinders on drum brakes would be, or the calipers on disc brakes would be. I've also ran rubber line off the rear end now. It's glued in place. That's way longer than it's going to have to be, just so I have room to trim it up. So now I'm going to get the front hubs on and get those lines hooked up. Alright, there it is, running out through the wheels to the hubs. A ton of work for something that can barely be seen, but it's the little things that make the difference, huh guys? Alright, so now we got to run the lines that'll be coming from the master cylinder up to the front and back to the back. Okay, well, once your body goes on, you get your master cylinder in place. The only thing left to do is run wires from the front to hook up to your T-fitting, and from the back, hook to your T-fitting up to your master cylinder. The master cylinder hookups will have a little coil in it like this. This is the one I'm going to use for the front once I get the master cylinder in. All I've done is put the coil in it right now. The way I've done the coil was just to take the wire. This is the one I'm going to do for the back. And I wrapped it around that. Tightly around a piece of styrene tube. You can use a needle or anything you want. Make your coils as big or as small as you want to make them. Once I slide that off, I'll have my coils. This is just in a roll of wire. I'm not going to actually run the lines yet because I don't have the body on, and I don't have the master cylinder hooked up, so I don't know exactly where to run or how long to make them. So I'm going to wait till the body and all is on before I make those hookups. I'll show you the master cylinder here in just a second. Okay, so this is what those two coils are going to fit into. This is called a master cylinder. Now this particular master cylinder will hook up to a brake booster, which is on this part tree. Got it painted, I just haven't assembled everything. On power brakes, this is what gives you your power, vacuum booster. I've been told, I don't know how accurate this is, but I've been told that for every pound of pressure you apply to the pedal, the booster actually applies 5 pounds of pressure to the braking system. I don't know if those numbers are accurate or not, but that's what I heard once. I do know that that's how it works. You know, you apply a limited amount of pressure and it applies more so that you don't have to push the pedal so hard. There would also be a vacuum line coming off this brake booster on the front side, going up usually somewhere around the intake manifold to a point that creates vacuum from the induction cycle on the engine. That's where it gets its power from, so I would call it power brakes. Alright, on the master cylinder, like I said, the two coils will go into it. For those of you who have been wondering what the difference between wiring up drum brakes and wiring up disc brakes would be, this is really the only difference. It won't have a vacuum booster. At least I don't know of any drum brake systems that have a vacuum booster on it. It's called a manual system for a reason. The amount of pressure you apply is the amount of pressure that goes out to the system. There's no assistance. Okay, so on this one it's going to mount to the firewall on the driver's side. On a lot of your older model cars, up into the 50s, even some 60s. It'll be located under floodboard right beside the actual brake pedal underneath the floodboard, actually. 1950s, 40s, 30s model cars, and I think I've seen some up into the 60s and matter of fact even 70s, I believe, on some old Ford trucks. But that'd be the only difference. I'm not going to wire these up in the video, simply because I think most of you guys know where it is and know what I'm talking about. To do the wiring, all I'm going to do is drill 2 holes into that master cylinder and do it just like I've done all the others. To hook up the back brakes, I'm just going to build one straight line fitting just like I did on the front brakes and attach it to the rubber hose. The front, all we have to do is run to our T-fitting from the master cylinder and it's done. So hopefully this has helped you guys. If there's any questions, let me know. I'll try to cover it. Later, guys.